Hello everyone, I'm a Silent Death, and welcome back to Stationeers. Today we are going to be focusing on writing a script for our satellite dish. So let's talk about actually how the satellite dish works. We have the signal strength, which is what we're trying to adjust the satellite dish to get to. We want at least 0.95 signal strength. So what is the signal strength? A simplified version of the math is it's 90 degrees minus theta, where theta is the angle between where the dish is pointing and where the signal is coming from. Then that number is multiplied by 10 ninths to convert it from 0 to 90 to 0 to 100. And then it's divided by 100 to convert it from 0 to 100 to 0 to 1. Anything below 0.5 is just flat out ignored. Now, the problem with the vanilla signal strength is that it only has 2 decimal places, which can lead to a couple of problems. You either have to have your satellite move in very small increments, or you risk getting stuck in a loop where the signal's like, say, it's 0.94. 0.94, you move 5 degrees, and it's 0.94. You move back, it's 0.94, because you passed the signal. This is a problem with a lot of scripts I've seen, and there's just really nothing they can do about it because it just doesn't know. But the Better Satellite mod changes the signal strength from 2 decimal places to 6 decimal places, which gives you much more accuracy. Another issue is you aren't able to distinguish between what type of signal you have. It can't tell the difference between an infosat and a trader, because all you have is the signal ID and the signal strength. So what I've done is I've added modes, which line up with the modes right here. So by setting the mode to 1, we will only get traders. Another problem is that it doesn't know what type of trader. This is especially a problem on single dish things, where you might be wasting your time trying to track down like a color corp trader, which you really don't want. So instead, what I've done is taking the signal ID and added 2 digits to it. And the last 2 digits of the signal ID should refresh here. I think it doesn't refresh until I do. But anyway, the last 2 digits of the signal ID, which doesn't show up here because it's using a different thing, corresponds to this number. So 01 is Tech Tree Electronics, all the way to 14, which is Smalls. Not Smalls Basics, but just Smalls. And what else do we have? Additionally, another problem with the normal traders or the normal satellite dish, is when you move, it only shows you the absolute strongest signal and the signal ID. So you don't know if you've lost the signal or if there just happens to be a stronger signal in that direction. So what we've done is added a quantity and a setting variable. The quantity is the number of signals that you have for a given mode. And the setting is the 0 base index. So 0 is the first signal, or setting 0 is the first signal, setting 1 is the second signal, and setting 2 is the third signal. So we're now looking at this guy right here. So 0.73 and not any of these others. And this tablet here does round to 3 decimal places instead of the 6. And there may be something going on there. Now then, I have a script that I've written specifically for the Better Satellite Dish mod, which we're going to modify today, because it's for an older version. This is a 2-chip script. The first chip has the satellite dish, then the second chip housing, which is this guy, and a switch. It has to be this type of switch, a toggle switch. So what this does, the first chip looks for a trader, any type of signal. Then if it finds a signal, it hands it off to this chip. And this chip will do the actual homing in on that signal. There's a few other features which we'll talk about. So to start with, we have the init where it loads the signals. Then it sets the step to 1. Then it sets the vertical angle to 45. Because we remember over here, anything below 0.5 is ignored, but 0.5 corresponds to 45 degrees. So, a satellite at 45 degrees vertical can receive every signal. You don't have to look up and down. You just need to rotate it, and it'll be able to pick out everything. Then we set the satellite for vertical. We only have to do that once for every search. Then we have the search loop. We set the mode to 1 and we initialize the setting to 0. Then we load the signal. Here it is. We yield, we set the setting to RA. This is a good way to see where your script is by telling it where it's at. Then we save the return. We reset setting to 0. And we load the quantity, which is the number of contacts. Then we have the context loop. So it sets the setting to our setting. We load the signal ID. Then if the signal ID is 0, less than or equal to 0, we branch to the return statement, which is up here. Have to pause for a minute to go get some air. Now we're right here. So if there's no signal ID, it returns. Then, if there is a signal, it checks the blacklist. Because what this program does is it keeps track of all signals that it's tracked before. It has a blacklist. But we won't go into that just now. We'll come back to that later. Then we add 1 to our setting. And if our setting is less than our quantity, we continue to loop. And we will check the next signal. If it's not less than, then we return. Let's go up to where we called this. Which was here. And it's the blacklist is where the rest of the stuff has. So check blacklist, we again store the RA, or read the RA. Then we hand it off if it's if stack pointer is equal to 0. Then we hand off if the stack is empty. Then we save the stack pointer. And I'm keeping track of the timers here. which I'm counting how many times the program's run, which is the contact timer. And if it reaches a certain number, which is the constant up here, contact timeout, then it will remove it from the blacklist. Then
Power low.
we have reset the stack pointer to the bottom of the stack. And we loop through the list. And we look at the contact ID. And if it's on the blacklist, we return. The blacklist return is here. We reset the stack pointer to our save state. We sleep for a couple of seconds. Then we return. And let's see. Have we done handoff? I don't think we've looked at handoff. Let's go down to handoff. So here's where we pass it to the second chip. So we set the housing setting, the setting of the housing, to the signal ID. And then we turn it on. And then we wait while we're searching. So down here is where the switch comes in. So wait while searching. We wait and check the switch, which is up here. This also increments the contact timer. This is where the contact timers gets incremented. And if the switch gets toggled, we add to the blacklist. If it doesn't get toggled, we return. Then we read the setting from the second chip, and if that equals 0, we skip the sleep statement. And if R2 equals 0, we restart. Otherwise, we keep looping. Because when the second script gets done, it sets its setting to 0. And that's how these two guys talk to each other. Now let's see, back here. This is just us looking at the stack pointer. And we shuffle things if we have to remove something from the list. When that happens, there's a reset of the contact timers and a whole bunch of stuff. A little bit complicated. We're not going to go into details there. Now let's look at the other chip. This one is fairly standard. The LED signal is, I might remove that. It's really just for debugging purposes. But we have this, which is just something I calculated, and I'm not going to go into. So we load the setting from the housing, and if it's 0, then we just keep looping in an infinite little loop. Then we read data all the way down here. So we're basically reading the horizontal, the vertical, and the signal strength. Then we wait for the signal to load. Which is somewhere around in here. Probably because it's a different color because of the underscore. Oh, I'm missing it. There it is. Wait to tilt and read the signal strength. We set the setting, we yield, we load the horizontal and the vertical, and then we check the difference between the desired setting and the setting that we want. Then there's some loop around codes. And wait, load signal. And then we do the same thing for the vertical. And another wait to the load signal thing. Then go back to where we were. If the signal is 0, signal strength is 0, then we've lost the signal. And that is down here. We just set the database setting to 0, and we go back to the net. Now then, we have determined which way to tilt and rotate. This is basically pretty bog standard for all types of satellite tracking scripts. You need to figure out whether you need to rotate your thing left and right or up and down. Now this is what this does. We do positive direction and then the negative direction. And it figures out which one of those is best. Subtract. Turn the dish. Signal, old signal. And then if we have negative rotation or positive rotation. The negative rotation is right here. And that skips basically everything down here. Then we do the same thing for the vertical. It's pretty much the exact same thing. Just changing it to the vertical. Again, with this. Then we have the old signal strength, and we save the current signal strength, the old signal strength. Then we multiply rotation direction times the step. Then we actually move our current rotation, and we save that to the stack. Then we rotate by step degrees. Add our dish by our rotation. Then we turn the dish with the S out thing that we've already looked at. I think we've already looked at that. This is where we check to see if the other script has told us to blacklist this. There's an equal 0 sign there. Checks branch of equal 0, goes back to init. Then it sets the vertical and the horizontal, and it waits to load the signal, which we've already looked at.
Oxygen critical. Low pressure. Pressure critical. Temperature critical.
Okay, where were we? We were at search. So S out. Then we read the change in the signal strength and the change in the rotation. And we percent of change. We calculate the percent of change. We pop this. And we return to the starting position. Then we do basically the same thing with tilt. And that leads us to right here. Right here. Then we find the difference in the signal strength. And we multiply that by the strength per degree. And that gives us how many degrees to rotate. Which way to rotate. And then we add those together. And then we do that same for tilt. And then we actually set it with the S out command. And then we loop. I think that's the whole script. There's also this, which we find somewhere. Urged. Is it S out? Might be S out. Yes. This falls through. Wait, load signal. And contacts. So we load the signal ID. And this is the index. Then we load the number of contacts. And we loop. And this is, I think, the exact same thing from the previous script. So I'm not going to go over this. If there's an ID match, though, right here, repeating the signal ID, then we return. If there's no match, we increment the index, and we keep searching if there's still stuff to search. And if we lost the signal, we set it to 0 and we return. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So what I want to do is this episode, we're going to add a check for these. And I think we're going to free up some room with this first script by getting rid of the contact timer. Instead, we will just say that there's a maximum number of values that can be on the stack. And that'll allow us to check things a lot easier. So I'm going to rip out all that code and see how that looks. Actually, before that, let's have a quick demo of the script. I believe I've had to set everything up. So there's quite a lot of traders. And it's got the signal, which is 06. So it is going to be looking for a microwave sky. Is it supposed to? And it's doing the angles. It may have lost the signal. Okay, that's a 5, not a 6. So I was looking for a mine right ores. It's getting a little bit closer each time. Not perfect, it needs a little bit of work, but it's found the signal. There it goes. And actually, I didn't show. If we flip the switch, then it resets. It's written 0 to that, so it's not doing anything. And that's now on the blacklist. And now, this is searching for an 07, which is the chem lab. So it's searching for the next guy on the list. And it's almost found it. So we now have a trader, which we needed. That's good. Now I'll go back to programming. After ripping that out, we've managed to save quite a few lines. You'll notice that well, let's look at what we did first. So right here in the add blacklist, we added a check here. If the stack pointer is greater than max stack, it removes the very first item in the blacklist, which subtracts the stack pointer by 1, moves it to the bottom, and it loops here. Add 1 to the stack pointer, reads the next one on the stack, then it resets the stack pointer, and it pushes that onto the stack. That's right. Then you'll notice that I use a lot of these branch relatives with negative numbers to do the loop. So this goes up to this line and loops, instead of using a label. It's just something you can do to save lines, because labels take up a line and branch relatives with the negative number do not. Okay, so that's basically most of what I've done. Where are we? We were going right. So we want to go to the check blacklist area, because this is where we're already checking the signal ID. And we want to check to see if the signal ID is one that we want. It ends in the number that we want. What we'll do here is we'll keep this RA. And if it's not blacklisted, we keep looping. Blacklist return if blacklisted. Okay. So right here, right before the handoff, we want to make another call. We're going to say we'll push. Let's look at handoff. It might already take care of that. We aren't resetting. Okay, right. This is the end of the stack. Okay, that's right. So we just want the next 2 lines, which we have this and the signal ID, which is signal ID. Okay, it must be that. Here we go. So by dividing this by 100, we get the last 2 digits. Right, so we could just do this in a whole nother thing. We could do push RA and then jump to, let's call it something like check type. And then let me quickly type in that function. Alright, so instead of handing off to the second chip, if it passes the blacklist check, it goes to check type. And down here in check type, we get the last 2 digits. I set the setting, which doesn't actually do anything right now. Then we see if that equals the trader type, which is a constant that I've defined way up here, 1, which is tech tree electronics. And if that is equal, it passes off to the second trip. If it's not equal, it just returns to the search thing. That is what this is doing right now. is it is searching for tech tree electronics, and he's ignoring everything else. So that's kind of the basis of what we're going to do. But of course, I don't want this to be a constant. So we're going to add some stuff from our more IC commands mod and allow us to easily define a bunch of different things. But to do that, we need some dials, which is why I'm looking for a tech tree electronics guy. I'll be back shortly. I've decided that we're going to demonstrate how to do this with both more IC commands and with just vanilla IC commands. So, towards that end, we've added a number of dials, 3 of them, with the free screws that we had. And if we scroll down to our check type function, right here, we're still using the mod command to get the last 2 digits. But now we're going to read the dials. So we move R1 to 3, and this is indirect referencing. You can do a device and then any register like R12 or whatever, and it'll give you the device that's in the number here. So this DR1 is D3. So if this device is not set, it'll return. Then it will load the setting from the dial. Then it checks to see if the type from our signal ID matches the setting of the dial. If so, it'll hand it off. If not, it adds 1 to R1. And if R1 is less than or equal to 5, it loops. So it goes through R1 equals 3, R1 equals 4, and R1 equals 5. Then if it makes it through all those without handing off, it returns. And that's all we have to do to check the type. This does, however, mean that we only have 3 dials. Currently we have this set to gas trader, electronics, and the mining trader. The mine right ores. So the maximum value these can be is 14. Now if we turn this on, I guess we need to turn on this too. I've already found a gas trader. Okay. I think I messed everything up when I put that switch out. Let's go export. Yeah, that reset everything. Excellent. Okay, now it's going to look for other gas traders because we've blacklisted that guy. Slowly. Let's bump this up to... change the steps to 5. Or maybe 6. 6 is even multiple of 360. I like using 6. And then, since we reset that, it should focus in on that gas trader, which it looks like it's doing. Yes, it's already passed that off. And is now homing in, I think. Are you still messed up from where I... There you go. Now it's homing in. Kind of hard to find. but that's how that works. So now we'll go on to the more IC commands mod version of this, which will allow us to have any number of dials. It's not going to be that difficult. Now for the more IC commands version. Instead of reading the dials with devices, we have count, which counts the total number of dials. If that's 0, then we return. Then we move, or we set R0 to 0. Then we use the new load index command to load the dial setting at index R0, and we store that in R1. Then we do the same b equals type, branch if equals if the type and the dial settings are the same. If not, add 1 to R0. And if R0 is less than R count, loop back up to here and continue running. And it will keep doing that until it searches through every dial. Currently at 6 different dials. So we have the 3 we had before, and then this is the same as this one. Supposed to be 14. There we go. That one, 3 and 11. 3 is the basics, and 11 is assorted goods. So it's already got a gas trader. What we'll do is we'll just reset this. And it's locked on to the 11th one, which is the assorted goods. So we'll blacklist that. And then it locks onto the gas trader. So let's blacklist that. Then that's all at once. So we only had those 2 there. I'm just going to keep looking. Takes it a little bit longer to go through them with the more dials you have. Of course, we could increase that speed by adjusting the step thing up here. Degrees to turn. And we also added the dial hash code up there. Still the same gas trader apparently. Okay, come on, find somebody. I'll leave a yield in there. Let's remove this yield because that's slowing things down a little bit. That's much faster. Well, not much faster, but it's a bit faster. Okay, this should pick up one of these 2. It's already picked up 3, which is the basics guy. But yep, those work because, you know, it picked up 3 and 11. It definitely got all those. And that is where we're going to end this. Like if you like, subscribe if you're not. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.